Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. I've had a lot of questions about how exactly do I do the Alclad Chrome finish for Beskar. Okay, so a lot of people are doing their chrome in different ways. You can do it with graphite powder rubs. You can obviously do it with Alumoluster. Alumoluster was the original paint made by Imperial Finishes, or sorry, Imperial Surfaces. That's the one they used for the show. So Legacy Effects, they would use that on like Iron Man and Pacific Rim and all these other kind of movies to achieve that kind of like chrome look. And so just to be clear, the Beskar armor and the helmet, it's not 100% chrome, okay? They didn't vacuum metallize it. They didn't do a spray chrome silver nitrate. It's painted with Alumoluster, right? The company has been very vocal about promoting that, okay? And so in terms of the look, it is not 100% mirror chromed reflective. Okay, when you look at how it appears in the show, and when you look at the screen used prop or helmets or costume on display, it's a much deeper chrome look. And as I understand it, a few people that have either worked with Alumoluster or worked on the show, it's not painted at 100% opacity over the black and the clear. It's painted at maybe like a 60% or 65% opacity so that some of the black shows through. And when you see on the helmet, there's like a little highlights and stuff. An easier way to do that is to mask some areas of the helmet and then paint those areas a little bit more opaque so that they're a little bit brighter. I am just trying to achieve that look with Alclad, mainly because of accessibility and cost. I'm in Canada. I was, preparing for a convention. I didn't have time to order any Alumoluster, and the Alclad Chrome, it's about 40% the cost of Alumoluster, and it's they're not. It's not going to look exactly the same, but I feel it's going to, with the right surface preparation, it'll get you to about a 90% look, okay? And so, yeah, this video, I apologize for the low resolution of the video. I actually did this on a Facebook Live feed because I had requests for it, and I probably should have recorded it ahead of time in a higher resolution and then uploaded it. But anyways, it is what it is, and it still demonstrates the techniques being used. So, for this particular Beskar piece, I didn't have time to wet sand the black. Normally my process would be I use Duplicolor gloss black, paint 3 coats, let it cure 24 hours, and then I would wet sand the black to about a 600 grit, okay? Wet sanding. I know a lot of people are wet sanding to like 1,000 or 1,200 or 2,000. In my opinion, you don't actually really need to do that. You can let the clear coat paint do the work for you. The whole point of clear coat is not only to provide a protective finish, but it sort of self-levels. So any sort of imperfections, it's going to fill those imperfections and provide a nice glossy layer. And so I found actually if you just wet sand something to like 600 and then you do 3 coats of Duplicolor gloss clear on top, you're not going to see any sanding lines because the paint, again, if applied properly, is going to fill all those little imperfections. That's the way I would normally do it. In this particular case, I was rushing, so I only had time to spray the 3 coats of gloss black, and I did not wet sand it. I basically waited for that to dry, and then I painted 3 coats of Duplicolor gloss clear. Now you need the clear over the black. There's just something about that effect that it brings out a little bit more depth to the chrome, okay? If you just apply the chrome to gloss black, it'll work, but it'll look more like aluminum than it will chrome, okay? So, yeah, you can see here what I normally do is I load up, I make sure I shake the bottle of Alclad really, really well because all the metal particles will settle to the bottom of the bottle. So you got to shake that thing up really, really good. I've got my airbrush. I set it for 18 psi, 18 pounds per square inch. You don't want to go too high because if you do, the paint basically atomizes and almost starts to dry before it hits the surface, and it can actually result in just looking like silver spray paint. So if you do it at a lower pressure, something around 15 to 18 pounds, I find it's enough that the paint actually still goes onto the surface, wet, and it will even out. Okay, you can see too, I'm not in terms of like the distance from the end of the airbrush to the actual piece that I'm painting, I'm gonna estimate it's about 6 or 7 inches. Okay, I'm a little bit closer than I would be for a rattle can. Rattle can, I'm like 8 to 10 inches or something like that. You want to get a little bit more of a wet look, okay, but you also don't want to have it where your spray path, you can see at the beginning I was sort of messing around with the nozzle, trying to see how much paint would come out. You want to adjust the spray path to be a little bit wider so that you don't see individual stroke lines, okay? And that's kind of like a problem where when people are doing their passes over a piece like this, you want to make sure that you overlap the previous spray path by about 50%. And that will avoid kind of like a zebra stripe look, which I'm kind of seeing sometimes. Like they're either holding their airbrush a little bit too close, or they're not overlapping their strokes, okay? So you want to make sure you overlap your strokes. You can see at the beginning of this video I started painting kind of the bottom edges first, kind of areas I don't really care so much about, and then I'm saving for the nice wet coat for the main part of the surface, okay? So I usually do kind of like 2 to 3 coats of Alclad Chrome, just to give you an idea of how much paint I used for this shoulder piece. In total, I probably used about 3/4 of that little cup that you see that's on the side of that airbrush, and I don't know the measurement, but it's really small. In terms of like the bottle, it was probably like 1/2 inch of the 1 ounce bottle. Tops. I used very little. I painted my entire helmet with about 3/4 of an ounce, so about 3/4 of the bottle. And that was 3 full coats of Alclad. So you don't need a lot of Alclad paint. There you can see I'm shaking the bottle just to make sure every time I'm reloading, putting more paint into the airbrush, I'm making sure that I shake up the bottle because those particles can settle, right? So again, trying to make sure that I don't have too much paint coming out of the airbrush. You saw at the beginning of the video I did some tests. You don't want to lay it on super thick, okay? You want to keep it light coats, and that'll just give you a way better effect. If you lay it on too heavy, too thick, you'll just end up with silver. You're not going to end up with your chrome kind of finish. And I know, again, we kind of keep using the word chrome. It's not really full chrome, but you get the idea. You want to get that sort of deep, rich look, and you're going to be able to achieve that with your gloss black and your gloss clear. And a trick I mentioned in a different video is that when I do the clear coats, I do 1 coat of clear over the black, and then I wait 5 minutes. I do a second coat, and basically before I do the final coat, I will only leave it on for like a couple minutes, and then I'll spray my chrome, okay? And the reason for that is I want the last layer of gloss clear to be slightly tacky, and that provides a little bit better adhesion for the Alclad Chrome when it goes on. So people have asked about durability and stuff like that. I've worn the Mandalorian probably like 3 times now, and nothing has flaked or chipped off in big chunks or anything like that. Of course there's scuffs, but anything that you're painting with any kind of paint, whether it's clear coated or not, you're going to get little scuffs and stuff, but the vast majority of it still looks completely fine. And I've had stuff that I painted with Alclad like 8 years ago, and it still looks brand new, right? So yeah, it's fairly durable paint, but it's basically all in the prep work, right? If you've got something that's really smooth, really shiny, nice gloss clear on it, and you apply the Alclad Chrome on top, it's going to look really good. If you don't do a good job with all your preparations before that, it's not going to look so good. Another trick with the Alclad is that it does dry very fast. So I mean, usually about a couple minutes after I paint something, you can actually take like a really soft t-shirt and you can give it a gentle buffing all over. It'll kind of remove a bit of this sort of whitish silver powder residue, and I think that's from the paint kind of like atomizing and dust overspray on the surface. If you just buff it really gently, it'll give you a really nice shine. It'll just bring out a little bit more reflectivity. And that's just a really cool trick to get that kind of level of quality. But here I'm done. I mean, you can see this video is only like 8 minutes long or something, and I painted the whole thing, and it's pretty much dry like a couple minutes after. So anyways, I hope this helps you out, and thanks for tuning in. Bye.